Nestled in the town of Whiting, Indiana, on the south shore of Lake Michigan, just 17 miles from Chicago, lays the BP oil refinery. The Whiting Oil Refinery's pathway to power began in the late 1800s with a man named John D. Rockefeller. In 1862, he partnered with two other businessmen to establish an oil refining company. It became known as the Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, a part of the Rockefeller oil empire. In May of 1889, they broke ground on the Whiting Refinery and subsequently incorporated a local subsidiary by the name of Standard Oil Company of Indiana, which was later absorbed by the American Oil Company known as Amoco. The refinery opened within a year and soon became the largest refinery in the United States, accounting for almost 20% of its refining capacity. In 1998, BP acquired Amoco in a $54 million deal. Currently, the Whiting Refinery remains under the ownership of British Petroleum.
In order to gain insight on the BP Whiting Oil Refinery and how it affects Lake Michigan and surrounding communities, we interviewed Marta and her father Thomas Frank, an environmental activist holding residence in East Chicago. He has a degree in urban planning and has co-founded many influential local organizations that help fight against the negative impacts of BP's externalities.
That's the main difference, is those who grew up here, this is almost invisible to them. Somebody from the outside, it's a shock. And usually at the end of the toxic tour, somebody emails me saying, I'm scared for you living there, because their neck is sore from their glands swelling from the smells and stuff. I mean, we have 1 million gallons oil spill over here. It's been there for 7 years, and it's been allowed to just kind of evaporate into the ground. There's this passive approach to it. We have 16.8 million gallons of oil floating on our water table here that BP spilled in the early 1990s, never been cited, they've never been fined, it's never been cleaned up.
No one has to clean up the oil spill either.
So when we bring it to Indiana Shipping Canal, the Grand Calumet River, you can see the oil bubbling up, and then usually in the Indiana Shipping Canal, there's often dead fish floating. Other side of the water filtration plant, and I gave the head of the EPA a tour, and I brought him down there, and he said to me, the first thing he said as he got out of the vehicle is, I was told nobody uses this beach. That was his very words. And there were about 30 people swimming, and all these guys were fishing. They fished nonstop because because BP discharges there, so there's a thermal discharge, and it never freezes, and that attracts a lot of certain kinds of fish to the heat, and so fishermen are really attracted to that. And he was like, oh my God, I didn't know, I was told nobody uses this. But it is public access, and it is a beach.
They put those non-trespass signs up
We
so
saw
people
there were
go
like
back.
10 on every side.
We try to communicate is that there are winners and losers in some of this, and the people here tend to pay the price on their health. A good example is that in the environmental justice communities, life expectancy is about 7 years shorter than the average American, and then there's many years of health costs that are also associated. I describe East Chicago as it's a city of people that have been traumatized tremendously.
This is like what's called a sacrifice zone. There are specific places where industry goes and they sacrifice the people.
BP had been dumping 23.1 parts per trillion of mercury into the lake, while the federal limit is only 1.3 parts per trillion. This is nearly 20 times the federal limit, and nothing is being done about it.
So they approved the permit to BP to violate the Clean Water Act. Lee Botts, a great environmentalist. And they never told anybody. It wasn't until people like me read the permit, fed it to the Chicago Tribune, and it became front page paper that Indiana awards a permit to BP that's in clear violation of the Clean Water Act. That's completely illegal. Absolutely, we can't do that. You can't award that. But it was allowed to do, and what ended up happening was, oh, we're sorry, let's negotiate this. And so what BP, out of the negotiations, BP sent a couple $1 million to Purdue Cal for developing technology, and also Argonne National Labs and stuff like that. So they spread the wealth. They never got a technical solution. They never came to us. It was really just spending money. Okay, we got caught with this. It's like when they're air permits. When they came with, people don't realize.
Part of the problem with environmental discrepancies occurring in the region is the disregard for regulation. Industries such as BP avoid following important regulations through not accurately reporting their violations.
The economy incentivizes them not to even disclose much, and they're not harmed. In fact, what you don't realize is they self-regulate. Industry self-regulates. They tell the EPA and IDEM if they've made a violation or not. You don't have IDEM and EPA going there watching them every day and checking out on their instruments, seeing if they're making mistakes. No, it doesn't happen. That's not what's happening.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. Anything that could help create more jobs to help regulate that stuff.
It is a tough conundrum because the expertise is with the industry.
Clear violation of the Clean Water Act. That's completely illegal. Absolutely. We can't do that. You can't